December 20, 1943. Early morning, an air base in England, cold, dark, the kind of darkness that came before dawn in winter. Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown walked across the frozen ground toward his B-17. His breath made clouds in the freezing air. His hands were shaking, not from the cold, from fear. This was his first mission as aircraft commander. His first time in the left seat, the pilot's seat, in command, responsible for 9 other men, for a multi-million-dollar aircraft, for completing the mission, for bringing everyone home. He was 21 years old. He had trained for months, studied the manuals, practiced formations, but this was different. This was real. The B-17 sitting on the hardstand was named Ye Old Pub. A flying fortress, 4 engines, 13.50 caliber machine guns, heavy armor, built to take punishment, built to fight its way through German defenses. Drop bombs, come home, that was the theory. But Brown knew the statistics, knew how many B-17s did not come home, knew the odds, and the odds were not good. His crew was already there, loading equipment, checking guns, going through pre-flight. They were young, most of them teenagers, a few in their early 20s. Brown was the old man at 21. They looked at him. Their pilot, their commander, the man who would keep them alive, or not. He tried to look confident, tried to look like he knew what he was doing, but inside he was terrified. The briefing had been clear. Target, Focke-Wulf Aircraft Factory near Bremen, Germany. Deep penetration, heavy defenses, expected fighter opposition, flak, casualties, but necessary. The factory was producing fighters that shot down Allied bombers. Destroy the factory, save lives later. That was the logic. Cold, mathematical. But sitting in that briefing room, looking at the map with the red lines stretching deep into Germany, Brown felt sick. They took off in darkness, joined the formation, climbed to altitude, 27,000 feet. The world below disappeared under clouds. The formation tightened. Dozens of B-17s, flying close, protecting each other, strength in numbers. Brown focused on flying, keeping position, not thinking about what was ahead, just flying, just concentrating on the instruments, the controls, the other aircraft around him. As they approached the target, the sky changed. Black bursts appeared, flak, German anti-aircraft guns, 88mm shells exploding at altitude. Each burst was shrapnel, metal fragments traveling at thousands of feet per second, cutting through aluminum, through flesh. The B-17s flew straight through it. Had to. The bombardier needed steady flight, steady altitude, steady speed to hit the target. Brown's hands gripped the yoke tighter. The flak was close, getting closer. Black bursts all around. He could hear fragments hitting the plane, pinging off metal, tearing through thin spots. Then it happened, an explosion under the nose, close, too close. The blast wave hit like a hammer. The plane shook. Violently, Brown fought the controls, the nose, the bombardier's position. He heard screaming over the intercom, then nothing, static. "Bombardier, report," Brown yelled into his mic, nothing, then a weak voice. "I'm hit. Nose is gone, I can stay on the bomb site." The voice was strained, painful, but determined. Brown looked right. His co-pilot's face was white, scared. They were all scared. Another explosion, this one near the right wing, the number 2 engine. Brown watched the gauges. Oil pressure dropping, RPM falling. The engine was dying. He feathered the prop, shut it down. The B-17 could fly on 3 engines, but it struggled, fell behind, lost speed, lost altitude. The formation pulled ahead, slowly, inevitably, and Brown's bomber was alone. "Bombs away," the bombardier's voice, wounded but focused. The plane lurched as the bombs dropped. Brown started his turn, away from the target, away from the flak. Heading home, just had to get home. 3 engines, damaged nose, wounded crew, but flyable. Still flyable. Then the fighters came. Brown saw them, small dots, getting bigger, fast. BF-109s, FW-190s, German fighters, coming straight at them, head-on attack. The worst kind. Brown held steady, let the gunners shoot. The .50 calibers opened up. Tracers going out, the fighters fired back. Cannon shells, bright flashes, then impacts, bang, 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 shells hitting metal, tearing through the fuselage. The tail gunner's voice cut off mid-sentence, just stopped. Brown called his name. No response. He knew dead, had to be. The fighters came again and again. Each pass did more damage. Brown felt impacts, heard screams, heard men calling for help. The intercom was chaos, everyone talking at once. Then more explosions, more hits. The plane was shaking, vibrating. Something was wrong with the tail. The controls felt weird, heavy on one side. The right horizontal stabilizer must be damaged. Brown looked at his co-pilot. We have to get down, oxygen system is hit. They were losing pressure. At 27,000 feet, that meant death. Fast. Brown pushed the yoke forward. Dove, the altimeter unwound. 20,000, 15,000, 10,000, 5,000, down to a few hundred feet, just above the ground, where they could breathe, where the fighters might lose them. The dive was terrifying. The plane screamed, shook. Brown thought the wings might come off, but they held, and at low altitude they could breathe, could think, could assess the damage. It was bad, really bad. The nose was destroyed, holes everywhere. The tail section was torn up. The tail gunner was dead. Brown had confirmed it. Hugh Eckenrode, 20 years old, dead. The ball turret was jammed. The gunner trapped inside, probably wounded, maybe dying. The waist gunners were hit, one seriously, blood everywhere. The plane looked like it had been through a shredder. Holes, tears, missing pieces. Brown made a decision. He was not bailing out, not leaving his crew, not parachuting into Germany. They would fly home, or die trying. He pointed the nose west, toward the North Sea, toward England. The engines that still worked were running rough. The controls were heavy, but the plane was flying. Barely, just barely. They flew low, over German fields, over villages. Brown could see people below, looking up, pointing, some waving. Some raising weapons, but mostly just watching. A dying bomber trying to escape. They probably thought it would not make it. Brown was not sure they were wrong. For a few minutes it seemed possible. The fighters were gone. The flak was behind them. If the engines held, if nothing else broke, if they could just keep flying. Then Brown heard it, a sound that made his blood freeze. A high-pitched whine, getting louder, a fighter engine, close. He looked left, nothing, looked right, there. A German fighter, BF-109, closing fast, coming up from behind. Brown's heart sank after everything, after surviving the flak. The fighters, the damage, now this, one more fighter to finish them off, and they had nothing left. The tail guns were destroyed. The ball turret jammed. Most of the other guns damaged or out of ammunition. They were helpless. Fighter 6 o'clock. Someone yelled over the intercom, but there was nothing they could do. Nothing. Brown gripped the controls, waited, for the cannon shells. For the impact, for death. He thought about his family, his mother, his father, thought about the crew, young men who trusted him, who were going to die because he could not save them. He felt sick, helpless, terrified. The German fighter moved closer, closer than normal. Usually they stayed back. Fired from distance. But this one came in close, too close. Brown could see it clearly now, could see the pilot. Why was he so close? Why was he not shooting? Any second now, any second, the shells would come, the plane would explode, Brown waited. Seconds felt like hours. But nothing happened. The fighter did not fire, did not shoot, just flew there, behind them, close. Brown did not understand. What was happening? Was the German out of ammunition, having gun problems? What then? The fighter moved, not attacking, just moving, coming up alongside, on the right side. Level with the wing, close enough that Brown could see the pilot's face. Brown stared. The German pilot was young, maybe his age, maybe younger. He was looking at the B-17, looking at the damage, looking into the cockpit. Their eyes met. Brown felt a shock, terror, confusion. What was this? What was happening? The German should be shooting, should be killing them, but he was just flying there, looking. Brown's mind raced. Was this a trap, some kind of trick? Were there more fighters coming? Was this German toying with them before the kill? But the fighter just stayed there, close. The pilot looking. Then he made a gesture, pointed down, pointed with his hand. Brown did not understand. What did he want? The German pilot pointed again, more insistent. Down, toward the ground. Land. He wanted Brown to land, to surrender, to give up. Brown shook his head. No, he was not landing in Germany. Was not surrendering. He kept the bomber pointed west, toward the sea, toward home. The German pilot saw the refusal, made another gesture, pointed, waved, but Brown kept flying west. Then something changed. The German fighter moved even closer. So close Brown thought they might collide. He could see every detail. The pilot's face, his eyes, his expression, and what Brown saw confused him even more. The German did not look angry, did not look hostile. He looked concerned. That made no sense at all. This was the enemy, the man who should be killing them, but he looked concerned. The German stayed there, right beside them, flying formation, like a wingman, like a friendly escort. Brown did not understand, did not trust it, waited for the trick, for the trap. But minutes passed, and the German just flew there, close, protecting them. That was crazy. Why would a German fighter protect them? Then Brown realized something. The German was between them and the ground. If German anti-aircraft guns shot at the B-17, they might hit the fighter. Was that what he was doing? Using his plane as a shield? That was insane. Why would he do that? Brown's mind could not process it. Nothing made sense. His co-pilot was staring too. Everyone who could see was staring. The waist gunners, the top turret, everyone asking the same question. Why is he not shooting? Brown had no answer, no explanation, just kept flying, kept watching the German, waiting for whatever came next. The coastline appeared ahead. The North Sea. They were leaving Germany, entering international airspace. The German would have to turn back. Brown felt relief. They had made it this far. The fighter would leave, and maybe somehow they would make it home. The German fighter pulled closer. One last time, the pilot looked directly at Brown, raised his hand. A salute, a pilot's salute. Brown stared, could not believe it. The enemy, the man who could have killed them, who should have killed them, was saluting, showing respect. Brown's hand moved automatically, returned the salute, numb, confused, shocked. Then the German fighter rolled, turned away, flew back toward Germany, disappeared. Gone, Brown watched until he could not see it anymore, then just stared at empty sky. What had just happened? What was that? An enemy pilot who did not shoot. Who protected them? Who saluted? It made no sense at all. What was that? His co-pilot's voice, shaky, confused. Brown shook his head. I don't know, I have no idea. Nobody spoke. They were all thinking the same thing. They should be dead, should have been shot down, but they were alive because a German pilot chose not to kill them. Why? Brown turned his attention back to flying. They were over the North Sea now. England was ahead, but they still had to get there. The engines were running rough. The controls were heavy. The plane was barely holding together. Every minute felt like an hour, every mile felt like 100, but the English coast appeared. Land, home, safety. "We're not going to make it to base," Brown said. The plane was dying, they needed to land. Now anywhere, he saw an airfield, any airfield, lined up. The landing gear came down, partially, not fully, damaged. This was going to be rough. The B-17 hit hard. The gear collapsed. The plane skidded, metal screaming, sparks flying. Brown held on, fought the controls, kept it straight. Kept it from flipping. Finally, it stopped. They were down, they were alive. Rescue crews came running, pulled the crew out, the wounded. The dead. Brown climbed out last, stood looking at the plane. It was destroyed, torn apart, holes everywhere. How it flew was a miracle. How they survived was impossible, but they had 9 men alive, 1 dead, and all because a German pilot chose mercy. The debriefing was surreal. Intelligence officers asking questions, taking notes. Brown told them everything: the damage, the attack, the German fighter, the escort, the salute. They listened, made notes, but told him something that shocked him even more. "Don't talk about this widely. Don't spread it around." Why? Because it complicates things. The narrative, the enemy is supposed to be evil. Your story makes them human. Brown was stunned, silent. They wanted him to keep quiet about the most important thing that happened, about the German pilot who saved them. But he followed orders, told his crew to stay quiet, kept the story to himself, but he never forgot, never stopped thinking about it. Who was that pilot? Why did he do it? Brown had no answers, just questions, just the memory of a German face looking at him with something that looked like compassion. The war continued. Brown flew more missions, survived, went home, got married, had a family, built a life. But he never forgot December 20, 1943, never forgot the German fighter, the escort, the salute. It stayed with him, a mystery, a moment of humanity in the middle of hell. For 46 years, he wondered, asked questions, tried to find information, but found nothing. Germany had millions of pilots, millions of fighters. How could you find one man, one moment? It seemed impossible, but Brown never stopped wondering. Never stopped wanting to know. Who was he? Why did he do it? Then in 1990, Brown decided to try one more time. He placed an ad in a newsletter for fighter pilots, described the incident, the date, the location, the damage to his plane, the escort. The salute, asked if anyone knew anything. It was a desperate attempt, after 46 years, after all that time. What were the chances? He got a letter from Canada, from a man named Franz Stigler, a former Luftwaffe pilot. The letter described the incident from the other side. A B-17, badly damaged, over Germany. December 20, 1943, the details matched. Everything matched. Brown's hands shook as he read. This was him. This was the pilot. After 46 years, he had found him. They spoke on the phone. Brown's heart was pounding. What do you say to a man who saved your life, to an enemy who chose mercy? Why? That was all Brown could ask. Why did you not shoot us? Stigler's answer was simple, honest. I could not do it. You were helpless. It would have been murder. I could not live with that. Brown felt tears. He had lived 46 years with that question, 46 years wondering, and the answer was so simple, so human. The German pilot had seen them, really seen them, not as enemies, as men, as human beings, and he could not kill them. Brown understood, finally understood. They met in person, 2 old men, former enemies. Standing face to face. Brown looked at Stigler, the man who saved his life, the man he had thought about for decades, and Stigler looked at Brown, the young pilot he had spared. They did not speak at first. just looked, remembered. Then Brown did something he had wanted to do for 46 years. He hugged the German pilot. And Stigler hugged him back. They became friends, close friends, brothers, some said. For the rest of their lives they stayed in touch, visited, talked, shared memories. Brown learned about Stigler's life, his experiences, his reasons, and Stigler learned about Brown's survival, his crew, his family, the life that existed because Stigler chose mercy. Brown talked about what he felt that day, the fear, the confusion, the shock. "I thought I was dead," he said. "When I saw your fighter, I thought that was it. That was the end. I was terrified, and then you didn't shoot. I didn't understand. I thought it was a trick, a trap. I waited for you to kill us, but you didn't, and I couldn't understand why." He talked about the confusion, the way his mind could not process what was happening. "Every rule I knew said you should shoot. You were the enemy, we were the enemy. That's how war works. You kill the enemy, but you didn't. You flew beside us, protected us. I kept waiting for the trick, for the betrayal, but it never came, and when you saluted, when you showed respect. I broke. Inside, I just broke. I didn't understand mercy. Not then, not in that war, but you showed it." Brown talked about living with the mystery. "For 46 years I thought about you, wondered about you. Who were you? Why did you do it? Were you even real? Sometimes I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was something else. But my crew saw it too. We all saw it. So I knew it was real, but I didn't have answers. And not having answers hurt. I needed to know. Needed to understand." And he talked about the reunion. "When I got your letter, I cried. After all those years, after all that wondering, I finally had an answer. I finally had a name, Franz Stigler, and when we met, when I saw your face, I recognized you after 46 years. I recognized your eyes, the eyes that looked at me that day, and I knew you were real. You were the man who saved me, who saved my crew, and I could finally say thank you." Brown lived the rest of his life grateful, grateful for the extra years, the family, the grandchildren, all because one German pilot chose mercy over duty, chose conscience over orders, chose to see humanity in the enemy, and that choice changed everything. When people asked Brown what he thought that day, when the German flew beside him, he gave an honest answer. "I thought I was going to die. I was terrified, confused, waiting for death. And when it didn't come, when he let us go, I didn't understand, couldn't understand, but I was grateful. So grateful, and I spent 46 years trying to find him so I could say thank you, because he gave me my life. And I needed him to know that I knew, that I remembered, that I would never forget." The story of Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler is famous now. Books have been written, documentaries made. But for Brown, it was personal. It was about a moment, a choice, a German pilot who looked at helpless men and chose mercy, and an American pilot who lived because of it. That moment defined both their lives, connected them forever, made them brothers across the divide of war. What did Charlie Brown think when a German ace flew beside his wounded bomber? He thought he was going to die, thought this was the end, thought this was how it ended. But he was wrong. It was not the end. It was a moment of grace, of mercy, of humanity, in the middle of the worst war in history, and that moment changed everything.